Wow, it's quite a scene, isn't it? Sadly, this happens in so many homes, more often than probably we care to imagine. And everyone goes through, every couple goes through these kinds of arguments in one way or another.
Well, everyone is prone to it because we all have our own opinions. We all think that our way is the best, or we think maybe we're not being heard or respected or listened to like we ought to be. And so it's good, though, when we come together as a husband and wife at the very beginning, or maybe do it fresh today to say, you know what, we're going to have these disagreements. We're going to have times when we just feel like we're not being listened to or we're not being respected, and we need to discuss it. We need to talk about it. We've got to set some boundaries first before we get to that spot, so that when we do get into these arguments or these discussions, that we do so in a fair way.
And we've had our share of arguments,
Yeah.
and you know, that is par for the course when it comes to marriage, because there's two different people. They have different backgrounds.
Yeah.
They come together. They see things from different perspectives, and then women think one way and men think a different way.
Women think the right way and men think the wrong way. No, just kidding.
You want to get into it right now, don't you?
Anyway, go ahead. You've
Actually,
got some good reasons.
day 13
guidelines there
of the Love Dare book gives some great insights into how to even fight fair. Like the name of this day is Love Fights Fair. Each day of this 40-day journey, there's a different aspect of love. And just a suggestion here, I thought maybe we'd just share this briefly. But of course, please get the book, and I challenge you, I dare you to go through all 40 days. But it says here, basically there are two types of boundaries for dealing with conflict: the we boundaries and me boundaries. And what do we mean by that? We boundaries are rules you both agree on beforehand, rules that apply during any fight or altercation. And so they list several of these. Maybe we'll just touch on two or three.
Some people, Ron, and I'm sure, you know, if you're just starting out in marriage or you've never really had these kind of boundaries before, you really don't know, okay, well, what are you talking about? What guidelines can we as a couple agree on? Because they are specifically written down in the book, and that's why you need to get a copy of the book. But we'll just share a couple with you here.
Yeah, and it's good to agree ahead of time on these, because in the heat of the battle, you know, it's anything goes almost, unless you've thought things through. Here's one: we will not bring up old unrelated items from the past. That's kind of a favorite of a spouse, to say, what about the time you did this? And you never, always and never are words that usually fly during an argument. Those are ones to say, well, ahead of time, let's not bring up past, especially if those have been said, okay, I forgive you, and that's dealt with. That happened before. And so don't bring up the past. Here's another one: we will never fight in public or in front of our children. That's so important. It's so sad in many homes these days that children witness
the pain and suffering between a husband and a wife when they shouldn't. Children have no business hearing the discussions that parents need to have to resolve their difficulties. And so that's just, it might be something that you agree to, but then when you're in the heat of the battle and the kids are right there, you just forget. You need to stop and say, no, we need to talk about this later when we're alone.
Like, we will never go to bed angry with one another. If that's decided ahead of time, then when arguments do come up, then you say, well, you know what, we need to resolve this, because I'm not going to get a good night's sleep if we don't. And we've just made that promise to each other.
And I know we've done this because, and it might make for a late night, you know, because you say, okay, we're going to take a break. You go in one room, I'll go in another room. We'll do some things, we'll pray about it, then we'll come back together and talk further. But if you do that, it's worth it, because then when you do finally go to bed, you know it's something that is resolved. So we encourage you to do that.
Those are just a few of the many we boundaries, as they call it. And then there's some me boundaries, and I won't get into those right now, but get the book.
Get the book.
It's so important to be able to put the time and effort into your marriage. Even if you say, well, I've got a good marriage, then these are good reminders and refreshers to say, you know what, we can make it even better. And others, maybe you know someone that you want to pass the book on to. They're really struggling right now. I encourage you, get a copy of The Love Dare. Take the dare, dare to love.